Welcome to another class of this course of AWS. In this class, I'm going to show you and I'm also going to describe everything with examples of helps in AWS. Well, in my past two classes, I've shown you about the services which you can get from cloud computing and also AWS. Now let's get brief into the examples of how those functions or how those services actually help. First off comes the scalability and also elasticity. The example of scalability and elasticity is auto-scaling for EC2 instances can automatically adjust the numbers of instances based on traffic. Now, the traffic is going to depend on how many people are trying to get or search a specific type of product, or even trying to get that specific type of resources from the services which you are going to make. Then we have is that ELB ensures your application can handle increased load by distributing it across multiple services. Obviously, if you make, let's say, a web application or maybe even a service, and obviously it's going to have a specific limitations of the traffic because it also has the tendency to crash at a certain stage. So to make sure that it does not crash and it can handle the increased loads of the traffic and also the resources distribution, it uses multiple servers and also multiple services, which will make it a lot more compatible. Then we have is cost efficiency and how it actually helps. The first example which you see is with S3, which is also a storage. You can pay online for the storage you actually use. Let's say if you want to use a specific storage, maybe just in case, let's say 1 TB, you are only going to pay online for that amount of that specific storage or how much it is going to cost. If it exceeds that specific limit, it's going to suggest you to get another storage or get another server and then work along so that it does not cause any issue. Purchasing reserved instances for EC2 can save up to 75% over on-demand pricing. So make sure to use the EC2 instances so that you can save up more and then also get up more storage when you actually need it. Then we have is flexibility and also the agility. The first example, which you see over here, is that you have to choose between a variety of database services like RDS, DynamoDB, or Aurora based on your application's requirements. So obviously, not all of the applications what people make or the users make are going to have everything which you see over here, such as RDS, DynamoDB, or even Aurora. It's going to depend on what type of application it is and what type of requirement does it need. If it needs RDS, use and only pay for RDS. If you need Aurora, use and only pay for Aurora, or even if it's for DynamoDB. Okay? Then the next example about flexibility and agility we can see is that use Route 53 to route end users to the nearest data center for better performance. Let's say, as an example, you are working on a specific server. Obviously, you will try to use the server which is the most closest to you, which is going to give you the best and the fastest data like interaction. Okay. Because if your server or if you are selecting a server which is very far away, it's going to be delayed and the data performance or the data, let's say, interaction between them is going to be very slow. So make sure to use Route 53, which automatically selects the nearest data center for the best performance. Then we have is security and also the compliance. The example of security and compliance is that the AWS Key Management Service, which is also known as the KMS, helps you to create and control the encryption keys used to secure your data. It is also encrypted inside of the server, obviously, because if the algorithm and the SQL, or let's say MySQL, just in case, which takes in your database or which takes in the data and also recognizes who the user is, So, as an example, the AWS Key Management Service helps you to create and control the encryption keys used to secure your own data so that you can get inside and get the access. The next example of security and compliance is that use AWS IAM to manage access permission to your own resources. Obviously, you don't want anything excess or extra which you do not need. So if you want to use only the resources or the permissions which you have to use for your own benefit, use AWS IAM service to get that access and also to get that resource. Then we have is innovation and integration. The first example of innovation and integration is that Amazon SageMaker simplifies the process of building, training, and deploying machine learning models. Well, we've been talking about SageMaker for the past two classes. So it basically turns or actually breaks down the codes or the data which you want to get, or even a specific requirement which you want to get from that specific service or that specific server. Well, SageMaker actually breaks down that command or that statement into a code so that it actually simplifies the process of building, training, and also deploying the machine learning models. Well, you can also make your own model just by using SageMaker service. Then we have is use step functions to coordinate microservices and manage application workflows. So make sure to do that. Then we have is reliability and also availability. The example of reliability and availability is that multi-AZ deployments for RDs automatically create a primary database in one AZ and synchronously replicate it to a standby instances in a different AZ. Well, you might be confused by it, but you don't have to worry because I'm going to break it down from class to class. The next example of AWS backup basically simplifies and automates backup tasks, ensuring data is protected and easily recoverable. So obviously you are not going to use a service where you have the chance to lose your data. So obviously the AWS backup is also very good and also top notch. It automates backup tasks and also ensures the data is also protected at the same time. And even if you lose it like accidentally, it can be easily recoverable. Obviously, all the services come in handy in this case. Then we have is developer productivity. The first example of developer productivity is that AWS code pipeline automates the build, test, and also deploys phases of your release process every time there is a code change. Obviously, a user is not going to get the same product over and over again, maybe in bulk. But if there is a code change inside of that pipeline, then it basically helps, or let's say the AWS code pipeline automates the build test and deploy phases of your release process. Okay. So basically what happens is that it does not delay anything, but it releases the process every time there is a code change. So it just basically gets to those who actually needs to change it as soon as possible. With AWS Lambda, you can run code for virtually any type of application or backend services without managing the servers. Obviously, you are going to build a server, or even for AWS Lambda, it has created up an algorithm or a program which can actually run a code virtually in any type of applications or backend service without even getting into another program or building another program or another code or another pipeline. So now you know about how these examples actually work. Now let's get on to the conclusion. Well, basically, the cloud computing with AWS provides unparalleled benefits in terms of scalability, cost efficiency, flexibility, security, innovation, reliability, and developer productivity. By leveraging AWS's comprehensive suite of cloud services, businesses can focus on core activities, innovate faster, and achieve greater operational efficiency and also agility. So basically, if we come to the conclusion, or if we make it a lot more shorter, is that when any business is trying to get into the AWS cloud computing services, they can only focus on their innovations and their own problems, or maybe even their own benefits, without even thinking about the cloud computing services. Because cloud computing services is made in such a way that it is very reliable and is also the most used services online right now in 2024. So hope you understood about everything in this class on how cloud computing with AWS actually helps, and how these examples actually helped you to understand about cloud computing and also intertwined with AWS at the same time. So thank you for watching this video again, and hope you understood about everything. If you still have any confusion or any question about any part of this lesson, feel free to ask me anytime. I'm always there to help you out. So without any further ado, let's move on to our next class of AWS.